very good rain.
Marvellous rain. Not too late for horticulturalists. The reason being is that a season like we've just had has been really challenging. Early November, December, quite cold. Hot summer, but the horticulturists can manage their water. So they've had some wonderful crops out of it. Some of them have been affected by frost, but in general, the crops have come off very, very well. The quality is extremely high. Just talking to some potato growers in South Canterbury the other day, in fact I was watching them harvesting. The potatoes, you could come out and put them on a plate and eat them. They were just clean, they were hard, they were lovely skinned and looking really good. Last year they were mush and we lost hundreds and hundreds of tonnes of potatoes due to the wet conditions previous to harvest. So it's been great. The onion guys, you know, 3 to 4 really nice brown skins on the onion, nice and firm onions going to Europe, going to Japan. Unfortunately, European prices are a bit soft, but having said that, we're still shipping away quality, and that's what we've got to continue to do to keep our markets. The soft fruit guys, the raspberries, strawberries, had a good season and had quite a long season in terms of strawberries, and they were there for Christmas, so that was challenging, but they were there and it was good for the consumer as also the grower. Apples are going off well in the Nelson and Hawke's Bay districts. Nice colour, good size, challenging markets, but there's some contracts that back-to-back contracts that are now around in horticulture and a lot of crops, they are really starting to make some true money. So good work.
It's their turn.
It is their turn, Rob. Having said that, they've worked really hard on trying to get these back-to-back contracts. In other words, you won't get top price, you won't get bottom price, you'll get a price that everybody can make some money out of, and it's guaranteed and it comes back into you. So it's the way forward, I believe.
It's taking the shoulders out.
Yeah, taking some of the shoulders out, and other crops are starting to realise this. So long-term contracts or long-term commitments with financial contracts adjusted every year to the market, and a grower can say yay or nay. Most of them are saying yay because they actually can make some money. The good farmers will always make money.
I guess that also means that they can go to their bankers and everybody else and say, well, we can tell you what our budget is going to be.
Absolutely. It's interesting you should say that, Rob, because I've had over the last 2 or 3 weeks, bankers actually ring me and say, now, are you sure about these contracts? And I say, look, they're written down, they're signed up. Sure, there's going to be some variances, but it's going to give, we want crops and they take a long time to grow. You plant them, you grow them. It might be 9 months before you get the produce. It could be 3 years before you get the produce. So there's got to be some long-term longevity about the business in general. And it's a relationship. You know, good communications equals a relationship. And that's what horticulture is all about.
Grapes, how are the grapes looking?
Well, the grapes have been good, but a lot of the vineyards, especially in the South Island, have been affected by frost. Having said that, there are pockets that haven't been. And quality is good, quantity is down because of the frost. But, well, you couldn't have got a better autumn for harvesting grapes. The grape harvest is over. And I would say the guys will be smiling. And probably smiling for another reason too, Rob, in that there is less tonnage this year than last year. Mm-hmm. It'll just keep the measure of what's going to come forward in terms of litres in the marketplace. And it means then that we could almost start to talk about, hey, we're not quite meeting our markets, which means the value will go up. So actually, it really has been a good year for viticulture.
I was going to say that, you know, people have got a contract to produce whatever,
yep.
And if they're not able to, does that become a minefield?
Well, yeah, it can be, especially the big boys that have got big tonnages to bring in and haven't got them there to do that, and they've got markets to meet. They'll buy product somewhere. It won't necessarily be the product they really would like, but they'll cut and paste their markets, and they'll fit the glove. The glove will fit the hand in the end, I'm sure.
Well, I'm hoping so, being a bit of a connoisseur. End user, as it were. Herbicides, I guess it's time to start thinking about them.
It is time to start thinking about it, but it's certainly not time to actually, in horticultural crops, to apply them. Because of the longer dry autumn, plants are hanging on, and there's a little bit more green tissue and green shoots out there that normally would have now frosted off or been started to break down, what we call senesce, a little bit early. Probably about, I always say, the 9th of April is about the time senescence really starts, and by the end of April you can get stuck in with your herbicides. Well, I'm saying this year, no, leave it another month, because those plants are still another month. Let them senesce properly, get them into a dormant situation, and then hit them with whatever needs to be applied to to combat the spectrum of weeds that are out there. And the later you can do that, and I'm talking probably late May, early June, where you've really got the helping hand of frost, because frost obviously knock the plant around, well, knock the weed around, but the weed's trying to survive, so it brings the herbicide in more. So let that process start to happen. At the moment, it's been too warm for that to happen. So senescence needs to be a little bit further down the track yet, and be a little bit patient, maybe go and have a break, go and have a week off.
And then we go and play golf.
I mean, this rain's been good because it's been quite general. It's been quite slow in most places. It's been quite heavy, but it's gone into the ground, and that's not going to do anything for growth or anything for the bush herb farmer, but it's going to rehydrate that very, very dry soil, and it's extremely dry, and it hasn't been resolved in this rain. We need a lot more yet.
Absolutely, because I would have thought that if you get it while it's still hot and the plant's thirsty, it'll suck it up.
Yeah, it does, but it also helps to develop those little root hairs that in the end pick up the nutrition. That's one of the other things, the benefit of the rain we've got now, and I'm sure we've lost some of our fertilisers. We applied them in our normal time, February, March, in horticultural crops, and we've had to wait and wait and wait for the general irrigation. I mean, main irrigation is drip lines, and it's quite specific. When you apply fertiliser, you need the ground to be moist all over. So that'll hopefully pick up a little bit of that fertiliser and make that start to work, and we'll benefit that in the springtime.
Of course, nature's likely to make it so that you can't get onto the paddocks because it's so wet.
Yeah, well, you know, no matter where you are in New Zealand, you're going to get the same amount of rainfall per annum. It's just when it comes, and at the moment we're dry. So are we going to have a really wet, maybe July, August? If so, let's get the cultural things done before that happens, and that's a challenge in itself.
But looking back over the season, most horticultural farmers will be very happy?
Oh, absolutely. They're very happy, and they're now starting to reap the benefit. I mean, the dollars continues to be a challenge.
Well, it always will be.
It always will be, and they've learned how to manage with that. And it's about those contracts, it's about quality, and they've delivered on both for this last season. I think it's been pretty blooming good, Rob.
From now on, of course, there's no rest because they're starting to work on next season.
Yeah, absolutely, very much so. A lot of planning going on. What are the markets really going to be like? Europe's still going to be tight. Russia, Mr. Putin's still going to carry on with playing his games, and it's really, really affecting fruit and vegetables in the greater part of Europe, which has a paramount effect on us. So we've got to go to other countries like John Key's doing right now to make sure we are spreading our export base for our horticultural products for us to get our 10 billion by 2020.
Seriously, does the Prime Minister's visit to another country really make that much difference?
Oh, I think any Prime Minister that goes to the high leadership in a country and is able to have dialogue, that's relationships, and it might not be beneficial, that particular visit, but in time it could create, I mean, if we can get all those Arab states, and Saudi Arabia obviously at the moment is the difficult one, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and I concur with those reasons. I don't want to see gender being mucked around with, or apartheid like we had in South Africa years ago. Having said that, you know, continued communication will get there, and we need to have exports going out. So we need to be talking to these countries. Whether we're successful now or successful in 5 years' time, who knows? But let's be rest assured we'll be successful at some stage.
Jim, thank you very much, as always.